Hi, Libra. Welcome to your December 2018 Astro Update. It's Rena, and this month of December is kind of our wrap-up of the year every year. But this year, it's going to feel almost like a new year because of all the retrogrades we've experienced. After the 6th of December, there will only be one planet retrograding, and that is Uranus. And Uranus will go direct in early January of 2019, and then all of the planets will be direct. But, Uranus is an outer planet, so its impact on us personally is not going to necessarily be that noticeable, although the house placement could show where a lot of that is going on. So it's kind of funny. It's like, in terms of it transiting through a certain house, yes, for sure. It could really impact us in certain ways. But the retrograde itself is not, I don't think, going to really make much difference in terms of when we decide to take action and that sort of thing. So it matters, but not in the way that some of the other retrogrades matter, the personal planet retrogrades like Venus and Mercury. And actually, as the month begins, we do have Mercury, which has begun retrograding in November in Sagittarius, now go back into Scorpio on the 1st of the month. Now, let's talk about the sun. The sun is in Sag as December begins, and this is your third house of communication. So Mercury begins its retrograde in that house and goes back into the second house. So this could definitely have something to do with a contract that has direct implications for money. I would even suggest, if you have recently got a job, that there could be, or I don't know if it would be a job or some kind of something that you signed that connects to your money-making abilities, and then you have to redo something. Or even just like on a different level, you may have gotten some kind of training and you're wondering, am I going to be able to make money from this? The third house can be like improving your skills, and that could involve some sort of certification program or getting some credentials. But during a Mercury retrograde, you may be like rethinking something along those lines, because it might have been promised you that, oh yeah, you're going to make all this money. And then when push comes to shove, you're like, wait a second. Now that I've finished this program, what do I have to show for it? Show me the money here. And so the wheels are turning in your head. When Mercury goes back into Scorpio, it's in that second house. So you're really like focusing on a money-making opportunity that you have kind of like gone back to, or you're rethinking. And by the way, too, with the sun in the third house, you really are focused on teaching and learning and communicating. The third house in the universal chart is ruled by Gemini. So it is a fellow air sign, and you have an affinity for this sort of a mental house because that's kind of where you're coming from too. These are called Caden houses, and one of them is the third house. And they are, focusing on more of the mental constructs. And although, it's funny, the 12th house is considered a Caden house, which blows my mind because it seems very mystical and not intellectual at all, and certainly not detached. But what can I say? That's what they call it. And so it's the 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th houses. And they're all the mutable signs too, by the way. But in any case, I can't get away from trying to get into teaching mode here. So the point that I'm trying to make is that for Libra people, this is something that you would take to very well. And yet there's also something that is kind of turning over in your mind that is connected to the money that you earn. All right. And so Mercury goes direct in the 2nd house on the 6th of the month. One thing that I want to say before that is that on the 2nd of the month, your ruler Venus, which has been in your sign, goes into the 2nd house on the 2nd of the month. And actually, this is a very important development because even though Mercury is still retrograding at that point for 4 more days, something that you have dealt with, because this is the house where the Venus retrograde began back in early October. Now you're coming back to this house with some sort of understanding of something that was unclear to you before. Now, this could have something to do with money or self-esteem, or maybe both. Okay, so let's think about back when Venus retrograded in the 2nd house on October 5th. Were you at that time, let's say you work for yourself, it doesn't matter if you work for yourself or somebody else, the money that you earn, that's what the 2nd house represents. Do you feel that you get what you deserve? That retrograde from the 2nd house to the 1st house of the self may have totally been about that. What do I deserve? What has life taught me about who I am, which the 1st house could represent? And how do I value myself? And even if it has nothing to do with money, it could just still be about self-esteem issues, maybe in regards to a particular relationship. And you're resolving that now. And with Venus in the 2nd house direct, you may also see a financial gain of some sort. Venus rules this house, but on top of that, Venus can bring money to whatever house that she travels through. That's just part of her influence. And then on the 6th, Mercury turns direct in this 2nd house, and you're kind of good to go. You kind of have in your mind the direction that you're going to travel. On the same day, we have a new, I keep saying this, I got to change this. I'm going to change this while I'm recording this. It's not the same day, it's the next day. On the 7th, we have a new moon in Sagittarius at 15 degrees of Sag in that 3rd house. So possible new seeds being planted in teaching and learning. This is, if you're like a teacher and you've had some kind of maybe mental debate going on, internal debate about, should I get an additional certification in such and such subjects so that I have more opportunities for work? There could be some kind of new job offers in this area because this would be like from elementary school to high school, or, earlier childhood to high school, particularly. That's what the 3rd house represents. Also, again, any kind of internet-based or, the way that we communicate nowadays, as well as in the area of journalism and writing in general, communication in general, more learning, but more about getting some kind of certification versus the university, which is the opposite house, the 9th house. On the 12th, we have, and by the way, the 3rd house can be siblings. So if you have some kind of new chapter in your relationship with your brothers and sisters, that could be indicated here. And then on the 12th, Mercury goes back into Sagittarius in that 3rd house. So Mercury is backward retrograded. It won't come to its, fullest point until the, and I'm talking about to the degree before it retrograded. It won't come to that point until I think it's Christmas Day or so. So it will still be in its shadow, but it's gaining strength every day. And this is in the 3rd house, so it's re-entering the 3rd house. By the way, it goes without saying that this is a general forecast. These transits they will not go along with these dates for your individual charts per se. It may be in the ballpark, but if you're listening to this for your sun in Libra, and you're looking at your natal chart, that it could be like totally different because it all depends on your rising sign and also the degree of your rising sign. So I would tell you, listen for your rising sign as well. But even with that, keep in mind that degrees matter. So then we have on the 21st, the sun going into Capricorn, power time during the solstice. I wish I could just say the winter solstice, but I have to be cognizant of Australian people. So this is your 4th house of home and family. So you're going to see the energy shift into this domestic area in January when other personal planets go there. Mars has already been there and done that through this house. You've had like a lot with this home sector, Libra. You probably know what I'm talking about because you have Pluto here. You have Saturn here. Now you have the North Node here because, the South Node, which is karma. The North Node has recently gone into Cancer. So I didn't think about this at the beginning, but then I'm like, oh Lord, that means the South Node is in Capricorn, just what we need. We already have a Saturn and Pluto. Now we have the South Node, which is very much about karma. So it's kind of, and I don't mean to make karma into something ominous, but since it's joining Saturn, which is the Lord of karma, and Pluto, which is Pluto is no lightweight either. There's like heavy family energy, but if you are brave enough to look it squarely in the eye, I think you're totally fine. It's really people's resistance to facing the music of a situation. So if you have had your family structure being turned upside down with Pluto, understand that all of the secrets, the deception, perhaps, that could be going along with any secrets or just downright dysfunction. This could be your family of origin or even your current family that you've created as an adult. And by extension, your marriage, if this is dealing with your family. All of this stuff is only coming to the surface because you pushed it down to begin with. So let's say that you've had to deal with a child who has an addiction. I'm just putting it out there. And it has devastated you because you say, I never saw it, I didn't know, and now this is like so far gone. If you're honest with yourself, You may have noticed things that you chose not to address. Maybe it was just like a visceral reaction and you just kind of like filed it away. And it may be something that you're not even aware that you're filing away. I have to say this only because somebody directly confronted me about Libra, and it was twice. I think it was the same person saying that I was basically saying that I was picking on the sign of Libra, and I had to tell them that listen to my other readings for other signs. I'm saying the same challenging things to them because that's how I roll. I want people, I have the sun in Sagittarius, but it's in the 8th house. This is the house that Pluto rules. I want people to confront their shadow. I don't want people running away from things that upset them. And this is something that Libra does. And they may not do it consciously. I mean, it's human nature to do it, but Libra really doesn't like things that are conflict. Some people enjoy conflict, like Aries, your opposite sign. They just buy a bag of popcorn and they enjoy the show, right? But you are the kind of person, because you crave balance, that you feel that anything that triggers you is creating imbalance. And what you have to understand is that, yes, that's true, but it's only temporary and it serves a higher purpose. And if you run away from things that challenge you emotionally, what happens is that they don't go away. They just burrow down and they fester. And this is what Pluto is, a healer. But it is that healing crisis, which is all of the toxins coming to the surface. And we can focus on the toxins coming to the surface and think that that's bad, but it's actually ultimately for the highest good. And so if this is something that is affecting you in terms of your family of origin, the 4th house can be the mother. Maybe you thought you had a certain relationship that you don't. And it is something to really have to process, but it can help you. But you also have Saturn here, so you feel the sense of duty. There may be something that comes up that you have to decide whether you're going to take care of somebody in your family, or if this is a housing issue, you may have to stay put when you've wanted to move, that you feel like maybe your children, you're thinking of them and you don't want them to have to go to a new school. So Saturn can kind of put the kibosh on moving plans sometimes, but you're doing it for the duty, a sense of duty to the family. And so that's not a bad thing. It can just be that personally you may feel like you're rooted in place when you don't want to be. So the sun in that 4th house can give healing to this area that sorely needs it. And at some point, Venus will come here too, and you will feel perhaps a lot of more pleasant emotions than you have felt in recent months or even years in some cases because of the Pluto influence. And then on the next day, the 22nd, we have a full moon at 0 degrees of Cancer in the opposite house, the 10th house of career. Now, this may have been a source of some kind of conflict for you, Libra. The idea of family and home and career matters. This is a very important career period for you because for the next 18 months, you're going to have the North Node in that 10th house. So family matters. They may try to ensnare you, and you may have to really do a juggling act with them if there's any kind of obligations that you have with Saturn there. But understand that because the South Node is transiting through here for the next year and a half, the universe really wants you to embrace career, okay? Doesn't mean you have to neglect your family, but don't allow people to guilt you, obligate you, and limit you. You must, shine your light, in a very public way. And it may feel that it's almost impossible because you may feel like all these things are kind of coming down on you domestically, but you have to find a way, because whether it's in our natal chart or whether it's transiting, the North Node is what we are meant to be emphasizing now. The past is the past. The South Node is something that served us at a certain point in our evolution, but now the North Node is our direction to start to travel. And the eclipses go along with this and will also support change. Okay, that's what I have for you, Libra. So there's a lot going on, obviously. And if you're interested in a natal chart interpretation, I just put them on sale, 20% off for the rest of the year. So the link is below for that. It includes the interpretation of your planets in the chart and also what's coming up for you, the trends of the coming 12 months. So check me out below. Otherwise, have a great end of 2018. Take care. Bye.